Tonight, Israel and Hamas reach a ceasefire deal. Our new reporting on how the Biden and Trump teams work together to bring Israeli and American hostages home. Is there any indication about when your son, Siggy, could come home? Confirmation showdown. Donald Trump's cabinet picks face tough questions from Democratic senators.
Can you say no to the President of the United States?
Will you commit to adhering to Senate approval or an act of Congress as required under that law that you authored?
And with the vast devastation in Southern California, the new questions about LA's response.
Could you have saved more neighborhoods and more lives?
The CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening, I'm Norah O'Donnell. Tonight, there is a deal for a ceasefire in the war in Gaza. Finally, after 467 agonizing days. It took months of intense negotiations, but now Israel and Hamas have agreed to a plan that includes the release of hostages held in Gaza since the October 7th terror attacks. When the deal was announced today, we saw scenes of jubilation in southern Gaza and a more subdued sense of relief in Tel Aviv's Hostage Square. The first phase of the deal is set to begin on Sunday, with Hamas releasing several of the nearly 100 hostages it still holds. Over the course of a 6-week pause in fighting, 33 hostages, including Americans, will be released in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Displaced civilians in Gaza could return to what remains of their homes, and humanitarian aid will be allowed in. The Israeli army would gradually withdraw from populated areas while still maintaining a buffer zone at the borders. We have a team of correspondents covering this breakthrough deal, beginning with CBS's Elizabeth Palmer in Tel Aviv. Good evening, Liz.
Good evening. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has not officially signed off on this agreement yet, but everybody else assumes it's a done deal. In Gaza, the thought that Sunday would bring a stop to the bombing brought crowds into the ruined streets. This is the best moment in my life, this woman said. Thank God the war has ended. The deal stipulates 600 trucks a day of badly needed aid will start to flow into Gaza. On Sunday, Hamas will release the first of the 33 hostages, 3 to start with, and then a trickle every week for 6 more weeks. Women, children, the sick, and men over 50. In exchange, Israel will release more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners from its jails. Among the 98 hostages in Gaza, there are 3 Americans believed to be alive: Eden Alexander, Sagi Dekelchen, and Keith Siegel. In Tel Aviv, most of the demonstrators who week after week had demanded that Israel's government bring the hostages home didn't come out tonight. But those who did expressed cautious hope and also fear. Yifat Calderon's cousin Ofer was kidnapped on October 7th, 2023 from his kibbutz.
Do you feel a huge relief tonight?
No, I'm going to feel a huge relief when it's going to be done. When we're going to get all the 98 hostages alive and the dead ones back home.
You won't believe it till you see him.
Yes.
It's been 467 days since Hamas attacked Israel and killed or kidnapped 1,400 people. Since then, according to Hamas health officials, Israel's war in Gaza has killed just under 47,000 more. And Nora, that war has not ended. Our colleagues in Gaza tonight report that there's more heavy bombing. For everyone who has been touched by this war, Sunday still feels a very long way off.
Elizabeth Palmer, thank you. President Biden praised the Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal tonight in his farewell address to the nation. CBS's Weijia Jiang reports on how this deal impacts his legacy.
This afternoon, President Biden celebrated the U.S. role in brokering the deal.
And we reached this point because of the pressure that Israel built on Hamas, backed by the United States.
But it's now up to the incoming administration to see it through. President-elect Trump's Middle East envoy was involved in the talks.
I told my team to coordinate closely with the incoming team to make sure we're all speaking with the same voice, because that's what American presidents do.
Trump today immediately took credit, posting on social media, this epic ceasefire agreement could have only happened as a result of our historic victory in November. Asked about that, Biden pointed out it was a deal he first proposed 8 months ago.
This is the exact framework of the deal I proposed back in May. Exact. Thank you.
Who took credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke?
The breakthrough gave Biden momentum ahead of his primetime farewell speech tonight.
It will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come.
But Biden is departing with the lowest approval rating of his presidency. And as he prepares to hand power over to Trump, a man he has repeatedly called unfit to govern, Biden still maintains he could have won the election.
I think I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump.
Members of his own party have publicly disagreed and remain frustrated over his decision to stay in the race as long as he did. President Biden viewed getting this deal done under his watch crucial to his foreign policy legacy. Today, he acknowledged his decades of work on foreign policy and called this one of the toughest negotiations he has ever experienced. Nora.
Weijia Jiang, thank you. One of the American hostages set to be released in the first phase is Sigi Dekolhen. He is among the wounded. I spoke with his father, Jonathan, a short time ago to ask him what it was like to hear that news.
Well, it means the sooner that Sagi comes home, he can be reunited with his 3 little girls, one of whom he's never met. And she was born 2 months after the massacre in our home, Kibbutz Nir Oz, on October 7th. He may not even know that his wife and daughters survived the massacre that day, but we continue working so that that day comes as quickly as possible for Sagi, our family, and for the other 97 families of Israeli hostages.
I know this has been so agonizing for you and your family. You sound hesitant a bit about the news of the ceasefire deal.
It's a region of the world where, there's a surprise around every corner, and it's usually not a good one. Yeah, there's, I would say, perhaps cautious optimism that we are on the road now. But clearly, it took force of will from a combination of the Biden and the incoming Trump administration to get to this point. And until all of them are home and we've completed all of these phases in this incredibly difficult part of the world, then I cannot be at peace. I'm sure the other families as well. And nor can we begin rebuilding our lives, certainly the lives of the hostages.
Thank you. And for more now, we turn to Face the Nation moderator and chief foreign affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan. So, Margaret, let's just talk about just sort of how extraordinary that is that this deal came together. At the same time, Donald Trump's envoy is there working alongside Joe Biden's envoy.
It's truly extraordinary, Nora, to see a united front. And President Biden's team was the one that crafted the details of this. Back in May, they got international support, but the closer here, I'm told, was Steve Witkoff, who got on a plane and went to Israel over the weekend, pressed the prime minister to take this deal despite pressure from the far right of his party to reject it. Back in Doha, Brett McGurk was leading President Biden's team, and they literally could not all be in the room together. The U.S. and Israeli team on one floor with the Qataris going back and forth with Hamas, and being able to show a united front prevented Hamas from exploiting any differences.
United front, lots of pressure on that. I understand you also have some breaking news on a big shakeup on Capitol Hill, the Speaker of the House firing the Republican chair of the House Intel Committee. Why? What does this mean?
Exactly. It is extraordinary as well. Mike Turner is known for being bipartisan as chair in his oversight of the intelligence community. I spoke with him. He told me this afternoon, Speaker Johnson called him into his office and said, "You're fired. There are concerns from Mar-a-Lago." In other words, Donald Trump, the president-elect, told Mike Johnson to fire the man overseeing the intelligence community who has access to some of the nation's greatest secrets. Now, there was no explanation as to why, but big picture here, Nora, this is not how government's supposed to work. Congress is supposed to be independent. Jim Himes, his Democratic counterpart on intelligence, said this sends a chill up his spine, and he thinks Turner was fired because he didn't bend the knee.
Lots to come on that. Great reporting, Margaret Brennan. Thank you so much. Several of Donald Trump's cabinet picks faced questioning today from senators, among them Trump's former defense lawyer, Pam Bondi, his nominee for U.S. Attorney General. She was grilled about some bogus election fraud claims. CBS's Nicole Killian reports from Capitol Hill.
6 Senate hearings back to back.
Do you swear?
Up first, Trump's pick for Attorney General Pam Bondi.
The partisanship, the weaponization will be gone.
Who was asked to take a stand over whether she could maintain independence from the incoming president.
I believe that the Justice Department must be independent.
But the former Florida Attorney General, who served as a lawyer for President Trump's first impeachment, was also pressed about the 2020 election.
Do you have any doubts that Joe Biden had the majority of votes, electoral votes, necessary to be elected president in 2020?
I accept, of course, that Joe Biden is president of the United States, but what I can tell you is what I saw firsthand when I went to Pennsylvania as an advocate for the campaign, and I saw many things there.
I think that question deserved a yes or no.
Asked again during a break, Bondi declined comment.
Did President Biden win the 2020 election?
I'm not going to be bullied by you,
the 14th Amendment.
There were other pointed exchanges over whether the January 6th defendant should be pardoned.
I will look at each case and advise on a case-by-case basis.
While former January 6th Select Committee member Adam Schiff asked Bondi whether lawmakers who led the panel could be prosecuted.
Are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
That is a hypothetical.
President has called.
Despite some protest, it was a more collegial reception for fellow Senator Marco Rubio. The Secretary of State pick addressed a range of global threats from China to the war between Russia and Ukraine.
There's no doubt about it, but this war has to end.
Many senators expect Rubio and Bondi to be confirmed. At least 5 more confirmation hearings are scheduled this week. That includes for Trump's picks for Treasury, Scott Bessent, and Homeland Security, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Nora?
Nicole Killian, thank you so much. The most dangerous of the winds in Southern California will be dying down tonight, giving firefighters a much-needed break. But CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti has new reporting on how some of them were deployed in the first hours of the disaster.
CBS News has confirmed that as the Palisades fire started, only 19 fire engines were pre-deployed to the area. But it's unclear how many, if any, were sent to the first neighborhood on fire.
This home is going to go up in flames. There are not firefighters around here. They're simply stretched too thin.
LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley.
We didn't see anybody there for those first 4 hours as literally it went up in flames. There weren't any from our vantage point, and I'm just doing my due diligence.
Right.
You don't know the number. It sounds like it may have been zero.
And we will get you the number as to where. I think it's important that we talk about the pre-deployment side.
Chief Crowley first blamed budget cuts for the lack of resources, but reportedly as many as 1,000 LA firefighters were not initially activated. Some were not asked to stay past their shifts. Others were assigned to non-fire-related 911 calls. It would be another 8 hours before the LA Fire Department sent out an urgent message.
The LAFD has called us to ask people watching, anybody who is an LAFD firefighter, to give them your availability to see if you can come and help fight this fire.
Both Chief Crowley and LA County Fire Chief Anthony Maroney say the extreme Santa Ana winds overwhelmed them. Devastation like this could become the new normal due to climate change.
It's the actions that we take prior to that wind event ever starting that are going to make the most difference, because we all realize there's not enough fire trucks, there's not enough firefighters to extinguish that fast-moving, wind-driven community conflagration that we saw on Tuesday.
The firefight begins long before the flames.
Long before that, and we need to be held accountable.
And we've witnessed the heroism of these first responders for more than a week now. Even some of them have said they needed more support, Nora.
Jonathan Vigliotti, thank you for your reporting. A Southwest Airlines pilot ends up in jail. Why? That's next. A Southwest Airlines pilot was pulled from the flight deck of a commercial flight this morning and jailed for driving under the influence. Sources tell us David Alsup allegedly smelled of alcohol when police in Savannah, Georgia, removed him from the plane shortly before scheduled takeoff at 6:05 a.m. Southwest says the pilot has been removed from duty. Eye on America is next. With the college football championship, Game 5 nights away, we're examining college sports in tonight's Eye on America. It's been 3.5 years since athletes have been able to be paid above board, and it's permanently changed college sports. But as CBS's Scott McFarland reports, the change and the money haven't been spread around equally.
Come on! Come on, Larry! Atlanta! Atlanta!
This is Coach Greg Campy in his element.
Triple team fadeaway jumper, good from Trey!
His Oakland University Golden Grizzlies shocked the basketball world last year
The buzzer sounds!
when the 13-point underdogs toppled perennial powerhouse Kentucky in the NCAA tournament.
There's nobody in the country that doesn't know what Oakland basketball is.
Greg Campy, the head coach at Oakland University in his first season.
The biggest win in his 41 years at Oakland. But now, Campy says, his biggest challenge comes off the court.
I spend my summers trying to raise money so I can buy players. Can you imagine college coaches are now saying that? Because it's true.
Forget the old definition of amateur athlete. College athletes can now make millions before ever going pro, thanks to a set of NCAA rules called the NIL, which stands for name, image, and likeness. Since 2021, any athlete, especially big stars like Shedeur Sanders and Caitlin Clark, can profit from commercial endorsements, jersey sales, even autograph sessions. What's really changing the game, though, is another part of the program that's morphed into a monster.
Let him shoot that shot.
Athletes getting paid just to play. When you recruit a player now, how early in the conversation does that player start asking about money?
It's initial. It's right at the start.
Right off the bat.
Right off the start.
Schools are tapping deep-pocketed alums and donors to pay millions to high-level athletes, launching bidding wars for recruits and raids by schools on each other's rosters.
Go, go!
3 of Campy's best players transferred to programs with more money shortly after last year's tournament success.
Some Power 5 comes in and offers him $500,000. I can't offer him that. So how do I tell a kid, don't go take $500,000?
So how big is this NIL money? It is very big. In 2024, an estimated $1.67 billion was spent on student athletes, and most of it on men's sports. More than $1 billion estimated on college football and about $390 million for college basketball. So much money is leaping toward the 2 big men's sports. Sports that don't earn a profit are in danger of shrinking.
I didn't get into track and field for the money.
Jaden O'Brien is a 2-time national champion at Notre Dame. She's grateful for the endorsement money, but it's about 1/3 of what the average football player makes.
I love the sport and I'm good at it. And if I make a little money on the side, that's great.
I'm not the old man yelling at the cloud, okay? I'm not that old guy. I want to be part of the solution.
Campy now plays teams that can spend millions more than Oakland and worries college sports may be headed toward an era of haves and have-nots.
I think that panic right now is that you're going to see the same 68 teams in the NCAA tournament every year. You're going to see the same 12 teams in college football playoff every year. And I think the true fans, that's a panic.
A flood of money that could steal the slipper from Cinderella. For Eye on America, Scott McFarland, Rochester Hills, Michigan.
It is a big deal. All right, a new mission to the moon is underway. Details on the lunar voyage coming up.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is brought to you by Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Finally, tonight, an American spacecraft is now on its way to the surface of the moon, marking the next phase in space exploration. A SpaceX rocket blasted off overnight carrying this 6-foot-tall Blue Ghost lander along with a Japanese lander. Blue Ghost will conduct experiments as part of NASA's mission to return astronauts to the moon. No American spacecraft has landed intact and upright on the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972. Well, it's expected to land in early March. And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. We landed it. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night.